What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Fit to Fat to Fit Experience podcast. It's me, Drew Manning. I'm here in my room in Utah and just finished a great podcast with an awesome guest today. Her name is Christie Akuna. She comes to us from Newport Beach, California, and very interesting story. She grew up with psoriasis, really bad condition, through her teenage years until she was 19. And it was her mom, who's a registered nurse, started studying traditional naturopath, and she kind of shares her story of going from psoriasis and the types of foods she ate, and all of the treatments that she tried to heal her skin of this psoriasis. For those of you who don't know what psoriasis is, you could just Google it. But it's red, splashy, itchy skin. Really bad. She had it really bad, she said, growing up. Anyways, at the age of 19, she changed her diet, right, among many other things. But she changed her diet, which was the big cause of her having this issue, and it was the thing that actually cured her as well. So she went on to get her Bachelor of Science degree in Holistic Nutrition from Clayton College of Natural Health in Birmingham, Alabama. And she's been practicing holistic nutrition for over 11 years in her wellness center in Newport Beach, California. And that's at Holistic Nutrition Center. If any of you guys are in the Newport Beach area, go check her out, Christie Akuna. She applies two different techniques: applied kinesiology and then foundational evaluating. And she kind of gets into what all that stuff means. She's big on nutrition. We dive into things such as healthy fats, right? What kinds of fats are good to cook with. We talk about sunblock. We talk about food that prevents bloating and gas and also helps prevent it as well. We talk about antibiotics and probiotics, fermented foods, and all kinds of other nutritional gems that I think anybody out there that's listening will benefit from listening to this episode. So great episode. Very in-depth conversation with someone with a wealth of knowledge. And anyways, before we jump into the episode with Christy, though, you guys, wanted to give a shout out to our two show sponsors of today's podcast. The first one is everlywell.com. And now everlywell.com is a at-home medical testing company where you can order your test that you want to do. Instead of going into a doctor's office, you can order it online. They send you the test kit to do from the convenience of your own home, and you follow the easy to understand instructions, and it's super easy. So, for example, if you want to test your HDL, LDL, triglycerides, your hemoglobin A1C, your inflammation markers, right, vitamin D, you want to test your hormones, instead of making an appointment at your doctor's office, check out everlywell.com/fit-to-fat-to-fit for a discount on their services, you guys. Or you can use my code FIT2FAT2FIT at checkout. And it's a great way to get your blood work done without having to be inconvenienced, right? Going into the doctor's office or making appointments, drawing a ton of blood. This is so much easier. The results are so easy to understand as well. That's why I'm a huge proponent of using everlywell.com on a regular basis so that you know where your blood work's at, so you know what is working and what's not working, right? So like, let's say you want to try keto, for example, for 3 months. You order some tests through Everlywell at the beginning, do the keto diet consistently for 3 months, for example, test your blood work afterwards. Or if you want to go vegan for a while, same kind of thing. That way you can find out what diet, what workout program is optimal for you based on your blood markers. So I'm a big proponent of it. I think you guys should be too. So look into it at least. Check it out, everlywell.com/fit-to-fat-to-fit. Our next show sponsor is questnutrition.com. We've been fans of Quest Nutrition for a long time now. Everybody knows their protein bars. That's what they're famous for. They have protein chips now. They have protein powders. They make this food taste good, so you actually want to eat it, right? It really does taste like desserts. My favorite protein bar, honestly, has always been coconut cashew, but I will say the blueberry muffin, their new one, is actually pretty dang good. But honestly, I could eat any one of them, and I like all of them, to be honest with you. So, but I also do like that they are getting into the keto world. So they have a ton of keto food that tastes delicious, way better than their other desserts, in my opinion. Check it out at questketo.com if you want to check out their line of keto products. I'm talking chocolate bars, peanut butter fudge cups, mint fudge cups, chocolate cream fudge cups. I mean, these things are delicious, like really, really good. I could eat it seriously every day. But anyways, we're super grateful for all of our show sponsors, because none of this would be possible without their support, and none of this would be possible without you guys actually tuning in and listening each week. So thank you guys so much for all your support. If you haven't already, please go on iTunes, subscribe to our podcast, and leave us a review, please, if you don't mind. All right, let's go hang out with Christy. Christie Akuna, welcome to the Fit to Fat to Fit Experience podcast. How are you doing today?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Hey, my pleasure. I love having new guests on that I haven't met before. And so, and you're coming out of California, right?
Yes, I am.
Newport Beach, correct? Yes. Love it down there. I used to live in Huntington Beach, and I travel there probably a couple times a year. It's one of my favorite places, actually.
It's the best. I love Huntington Beach. I love the people, the attitudes, and just kind of the culture there. It's super mellow and good food.
Yeah. Is there a difference between Newport and Huntington Beach as far as the culture?
I think so, yeah.
I mean, Newport is obviously high end,
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's fancy, and Huntington Beach is more, I guess, like the surfer town, right?
Yes, exactly. I like it. It's like a blend of both worlds. I get to be professional and a little bit more upscale neighborhood and area, and then I get to chill out in a sweatshirt and rainbow sandals in Huntington. It's a nice blend.
That's awesome. So, well, thank you so much for being here and coming on. I have a lot of topics I want to discuss with you.
Cool.
But first and foremost, I did want to kind of introduce you to my audience. For those that don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about your background and what you grew up, what were your passions growing up, and then kind of maybe lead that into your psoriasis story, which I think a lot of people find interesting.
Okay. All right. Definitely. So actually growing up, my passion was acting. I was going to be on stage and I was going to be the actress. And so it's so far from what I do, which is so funny because I never would have imagined being on this platform or this stage. And all growing up, I wanted to be an actress, always just the glamour, just loved it. Did some plays, did some musicals, just really tried to get into it. But I always had something holding me back, which was my skin. And being an actress, you have to be confident. You have to really show up and put yourself out there. And that was one thing that was really hard for me, was to put myself out there, because having psoriasis was really debilitating mentally. I mean, physically, it absolutely hurt and was painful and dry and flaky, but it was painfully mentally because it impaired my confidence. So, I had it all over my body when I was born. And for those that don't know what psoriasis is, it's where my skin cells replicated faster on the surface of the skin than normal skin cells do. So I have dry, patchy, scaly-looking skin, and I had that for years. And, I was in college, and I was doing some plays, and I was loving it and doing my thing, but I really wasn't loving how my skin was and how I was feeling, because I had it wrapped. I mean, wrapped all around my legs, all around my arms, and my torso. The only place it really wasn't was on my face in the middle, with my cheeks, my forehead, my nose, my lips. It was around there, but it just wasn't on the center. And I would hide with clothes and makeup and, just do whatever I could just to get by and get through, because as a kid I was teased. Kids are mean. Man.
I know, man. I can only imagine.
Right.
I can only imagine what you, especially during your teenage years, that must have been really hard. I'm assuming your parents tried to help you, take you to doctors to find some cures or some kind of creams, right, to help out?
100%. They took me to dermatologists. They took me to medical doctors, pediatricians, as well as, I call them the Voodoo Doctors. I had, when it was, in the 90s, when it was this homeopath, she needs to stop drinking milk and start eating hummus. I'd do whatever they said. I would be crying before I had to drink an herbal elixir because it was disgusting. And so, I had to go through some mental and physical tortures. But by the time I reached the age of 19, I was just kind of flip-flopping in junior college and really just kind of getting doing the plays, couldn't find my way and connect with what I was really meant to do. And my mom, who was a nurse for 27 years, she became a naturopath and started practicing in the house. And she used me as a guinea pig and was like, you've really done well in supporting your body. You love food, right? And I started changing my diet. And the crazy part is that through all the practitioners that I saw, not one asked me really what I was eating. So my diet growing up was, white bread, bleached white bread with margarine on it, tortillas with margarine in it, fried chicken, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Taco Bell. It was a lot of crappy junk that my body was screaming, saying I can't take it. And so that's why my skin and my body's psoriasis is an autoimmune disease. So the foods I was eating just flared it up.
It's so interesting because, I was going to ask you about that. If any of these people, these professionals ask you about your diet, but it seems like we're such a reactive society, right? So we wait till there's a symptom like, your skin, and then like, okay, well, how can we mask these symptoms by giving you drugs or creams or, whatever it is, instead of, starting with something like food, which a lot of people are like, oh, I didn't even think that was causing it. Right. So it's interesting how, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. That you bring up such a valid point that I'm still working on in my practice with people all the time. They have no idea that the food they put in their mouth is what's causing, their body to be the way it is. People today want a premium life, but they're not willing to put in the premium fuel, and maybe they don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've tried to get that across to people. When it comes to so many issues, we look at diet as the last thing. Like, I'd rather just take a pill and not change my diet.
Exactly. I say, I wish that there was such a thing, but unfortunately, we're handed a little different way of life and how we have to handle things. So there's no magic pill.
So, and it's interesting because the food that you describe is similar to the food that I ate when I did my fit to fat journey when I gained 75 pounds was your typical fast food, highly processed foods. You mentioned white bread in one of your videos. I mean, that's what I grew up on. I mean, to feed a family of 11 kids, my mom had to buy, white bread and peanut butter, which was super cheap meals. But luckily I didn't have that issue. And so I can only imagine the torture, mentally and emotionally you had to go through as a teenager, especially with, we know how mean kids can be, right?
Yes. I was teased.
Okay, so this is kind of an interesting question. Did you ever have a boyfriend at that time?
Yes, I did in more like high school. Junior high a little bit more. High school is when I kind of got out there a little bit more. When I hit about 12, 13, and I did go through puberty, it lessened a little. But I still was hiding. You know what I mean? Like with clothes. Like summertime, I'd be wearing turtlenecks as a kid. Wintertime, I couldn't put enough Nivea or Eucerin or, creams as if I had a lotion deficiency. And so before I would go and hang out or on a date or hang out with a boyfriend, I would always make sure that I would try and hydrate those areas, right? So that they wouldn't notice or scrub it to death with, your exfoliating shower scrubs. Yeah. So, you just, when you get to a point where it's like, not another day, not another moment am I going to feel like this. And I think that's when I reached it when I was about 19. And my mom kind of helped me find my passion a bit.
So what was your diet like? What did you go from? I mean, you ate, Taco Bell and processed food. What did it go? What did you start eating in your diet? Like, what were the types of foods you started to eat?
Types of foods. Well, the first thing I did is I did a cleanse, right? So this cleanse is Standard Process 21-day cleanse, and Standard Process is a whole food supplement company. And so my mom was working with them at the time when she just started her practice, and this cleanse is all about eating. So you're eating the first 10, it's a 21 days. So the first 10 days I was doing some protein shakes, right? And I was eating some salads, some greens, some vegetables, some seeds, so your good fats, and pretty much that was about it, and water, of course. Pretty much that was about it. And then days 11 through 21, I would start to add in chicken and fish. So you're just broadening the cleanse a bit. And that's where it began to change for me, is when I did something drastic like that, in a real drastic, healthy path. And so my lifestyle began to be sustainable around that. So I would never call myself paleo, because I am such a fan of like full fat raw dairy. So I tend to be, most people now, that's the big trending thing, is paleo. I tend to be a little towards paleo minded, but, proteins, some vegetables, but making sure my fats are in place is like number one.
Interesting. So I'm a big fan of fat as well. So when you see clients that come into your office, especially women, I don't know what the average age group is, but do you still find resistance to thinking eating fat is going to make them fat, or that eating fat is bad for you?
Yes. My demographics that I generally will see is 35 to 55, but I also have kids and younger ones in the practice, but a lot of women in that age, like 30 to 60. And so, yes, I mean, one of the things that I have told of a couple of people is they need to start eating lard. Lard is essential. It's one of the preferably best fats to cook in. And they absolutely look at me like I'm a cuckoo bird. They're like, wait, I'm sorry, what? I'm worried about my cholesterol. I'm trying to lose weight, Christy. Like, I don't get you.
Yeah.
But I have such a long-standing relationship with them. So by the time I tell them this, they're like, fine, whatever you say, Christy, you're such a nut, but it's worked this far.
Yeah.
So, because they're radical ideas, but I'm very traditional.
Well, it's so interesting. I have some, people, some good friends that are in the keto industry, and it's so interesting to think that, just for the past the past few decades is when we really started to get away from eating fat and to see what it's done to our society. But if you go back, most, hundreds of years ago, you'll see most societies would eat a lot of fat. And it wasn't until, I'm not going to get into it too much, but the government came in and made these standards, and, we decided fat was the enemy. And there was a leaked document, I think just recently, that NPR just showed that these food corporations would pay scientists to show that fat was the enemy back in the 60s and 70s. And that's where the whole, food pyramid kind of came about, to kind of lead us down this path of staying away from fat. So it's just interesting how set in our ways we can get.
We've been conditioned to think that we need certain fats, but they really are the toxic oils and the toxic fats, right? So there's so many, we were conditioned that we need to start cooking with vegetable oil, soybean oil, canola oil. Crisco took over. I bet they were one of the vendors that paid the scientists, in fact, to tell us to stray away from lard. But
yeah, so, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm a real talker. You sure you want me on your show?
We got two talkers talking to each other. See who's going to win. Go ahead.
So this is what I'm really have been primarily doing, is educating and really trying to get people and kids. I just spoke at a school yesterday to 4th and 6th graders to really get them, because these kids, I don't think we give them enough credit. They know what high fructose corn syrup is. They were asking me about cholesterol. They want to know what should I be eating? I play soccer, I play sports. So when I tell them, look for things in your breads like soybean oil or canola oil or vegetable oil, they're interested and they want to know,
Yeah. So what are some healthy oils we should be cooking with that you recommend to your clients?
Top 3 cooking oils: coconut oil, butter, and lard.
Any specific kind of lard, or where do you buy your lard from?
I buy my lard. It's leaf lard at the fermentation farm, and that's here in Costa Mesa, California. Costa Mesa, California. It's right there on the border of Huntington Beach. So I buy mine there, where it's all organic and the best lard. But you can also buy the best lard at Sprouts or Whole Foods. And and it's in the butter section in the fridge.
Yeah. No, I have cooked with it before and it's delicious. And it feels wrong. You're like, "Oh my gosh, this tastes so good." But
see?
Yes, Christy knows what she's talking about.
That's right. Trust me.
So let's talk a little bit about bloating. Obviously, digestion and bloating is a huge issue with a lot of people when it comes to their food. What are some foods that you use to help prevent or ease bloating?
To prevent it and to handle it in, I guess you'd call it acute, whether it's chronic or acute, or to try and prevent it. One of the things I recommend is, one, to get your fats right? So we've mentioned changing your oils, get rid of canola, get rid of soybean, and get rid of vegetable oils and corn oil. I forgot about that one. The things that I do recommend to help put back into the system is probiotic. Now, fermented foods contain so much probiotic. So sauerkraut, 1 tablespoon, has more probiotic in it than a bottle of probiotic pills. So these fermented foods, fermented pickles, fermented, beet kraut, fermented sauerkraut, fermented yogurt, all these kombucha. That's, a lot of people know about kombucha, which is a fermented tea, are a fantastic way to recolonize the gut and to really help you to digest and absorb and, frankly, to feel better, because your gut is your second brain. And I feel like it's your first brain, even though they say it's your second, because I feel like we think with our gut. But
yes.
You just got to take care of it.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of kimchi, and a lot of people think I'm weird for eating kimchi, but I love it.
It's awesome.
It is, and sauerkraut too is another easy one. I do have a tough time getting my kids to eat it though. But you did recommend some fermented yogurts, kind of. I'm guessing kefir. Is that one of them?
Kefir would be great. And you know what? I'm spoiled being over here by the fermentation farm.
Yeah, I know.
Because they make all their stuff. So they have this raw milk and raw cream yogurt with vanilla and honey, and they ferment it with villi bacteria. It's amazing.
It does sound amazing.
But regular stores, yes. My advice is to do some kefir and whole milk yogurts. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay. So that's the thing is, like, bloating seems to be an issue for so many people, especially here in America. So we just, people buy Beano or Gas X or whatever, but they'll still eat Activia, but they'll still eat the same foods. So those are some things that we can implement into our diet. And so hopefully people that are listening will go out and start buying these foods or find interesting ways to cook with them. For me, I just eat it. I eat it, sauerkraut or kimchi raw. I don't really cook it or fancy it up, even though it doesn't taste the best. It's super healthy. I know it's good for my gut.
Good for you. I mean, honestly, that's what I do. People say, "What do you put it on?" I go, "My spoon." I don't put it on anything.
Exactly. So would you consider yourself full keto? Since it sounds like you eat a lot of fat, but do you really, or do you not really measure that at all? You still eat a lot of protein, a lot of good carbs.
I do a lot of, I guess I stray towards keto, paleo. Yeah, more on that side. I mean, I'm a high animal protein eater, high animal fats, and some, other nut fats, nut butters, your oils, and so forth. But yeah, I'm protein, some vegetables, the carbohydrates, because of my autoimmune disease and the way the grains are processed. I mean, I don't know if we want to talk about all the grains and stuff, but grains and the gluten, there's always been gluten in breads. It's just that we have so much more. I mean, an obscene amount of gluten and the crossbreeding that's been done with the wheats, that grains are just a real tough area for a lot of people. So for me, my carbohydrates are mostly, we're talking about like starchy carbohydrates, are like sweet potatoes, yams, parsnips. Those are where I go for that. So
That's
I
where you
really
get most of your carbs from that.
Yes, I don't really do a ton of. I have to be very careful with grains for me and autoimmune disease.
Okay, gotcha. Another topic I wanted to discuss with you, because I have kids, and sunblock is, you can just go to Walmart and buy any old sunblock that's there, or I know that there's, you go to Whole Foods, there's a whole different type of sunblock there. What is the best things to look for as far as safety for sunblock?
With my experience with sunblock, I would suggest to look for mineral oil and look for parabens. Those are two major things that I would look for that I would not put topically on the skin.
Okay, so don't put those things on your skin. Don't look for mineral oil and put it on your skin, or parabens.
Right. So you're looking, if they're in, exactly. If they're in the sunscreens, I would move on.
Okay. So look for ones that are labeled paraben free and make sure there's no mineral oil in the.
Yes. And I'm sure that there's some other chemicals as well, but I would honestly, my knowledge in the sunscreen area is not as deep as I would like it to be. But when it comes to lotions or anything topically, I always stick to the less ingredients and ones that I know what they are and can understand, and that they're not parabens, there's no mineral oil, no chemicals, no dyes, none of that. So like brands, not to throw them under the bus, but yes, to throw them under the bus, like Neutrogena, right? That's a big one. I would never buy or put on my son or myself. I'm trying to think of another major name brand one. I can see the label, but I can't think of the brand.
Banana Boat.
Banana Boat.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. The one that smells so good.
Yes, the ones that smell good usually probably aren't the best.
Fragrance, yes. So they carry more chemicals and even metals in them. Yeah.
Interesting. What about cold medicine? What's your take on cold medicine, especially for kids?
Yes.
What you have suggestions there of things to look for or not to look for in medicines? In
medicines, you want more whole food and herb components. So like Dayquil and NyQuil, I don't remember which one it is, but I think they have like red 40, FD&C, blue 1, yellow. I can't even remember the number for yellow, but those are such toxic, harsh chemicals. And honestly, I understand getting relief, and I understand when the kid isn't feeling well, but it's so hard on this side of the fence because as a holistic nutritionist, I would just be pulling from my cabinet, which is my whole food supplements and herbs to help build up the immunity, not suppress a symptom just to get them to calm down. So I would look more at Whole Foods. I think it's called Bumblebee.
Yes. Yep.
Yep.
I've heard of that.
They're pretty good with their cough syrups. I wouldn't be afraid at all. I'd be more afraid of doing constant antibiotics on my kids and constant cough syrups with the toxic chemicals and dyes. That's where my fear is. I'm not afraid to do any herbs or whole food because all it's going to do is to build up and support and allow the body to heal it in its time.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because I think my generation, our generation was, we were loaded up on antibiotics. If we were sick, boom, antibiotics,
Yep.
And so let's say, for instance, though, if something is serious, they do have to take antibiotics. What are some things they can do maybe to help repopulate that bacteria? Is it just take probiotics at the same time they're taking antibiotics, or maybe take the probiotics after they have to take antibiotics? What's your experience with that, if any at all?
I have experience with both. I used to have clients take the antibiotic and take the probiotic. I mean, I didn't prescribe the antibiotic, but when they were on it, I would have them take a probiotic at the same time. And then I would have them, then I would end that and say, okay, no, this time I want you to wait, finish the course, do your 3-day, 10-day antibiotic, and then start probiotic. So I think the best thing to do is if you're going to take an actual probiotic supplement, wait until the antibiotic is done, because it's antibiotic is going to wipe you of good and bad bacteria. But while you're doing the antibiotic, eat probiotic foods. That's what I do recommend. More fermented foods. And then start your probiotic pills after you're done on that round.
Gotcha. That's great advice. I like that, actually.
Cool.
So yeah. So shifting gears here a little bit, I want to talk to you about your practice and what services you guys provide for people there. I mean, obviously, not everybody listening lives in Newport Beach,
right,
or is going to travel out there to see you. But what kind of services do you guys provide there at your wellness center?
So what we do here is we do something called a nutritional exam. We also do nutrition response testing, and I also have a heart rate variability. So what I do is I find the root cause to what is causing the health challenge in that person's body. So people come from all walks, right, and all different cultures, and they're all dealing with the same things. I've got tumors developing, I've got cysts, I've got cancer, I've got autoimmune, I've got arthritis, I've got pain. I just don't feel good. I'm going through the change. My daughter doesn't get a cycle. Just help me. I have there's so many. And so what I do is I use the heart rate variability, which is a machine where I put a strap around their chest over the heart, so I can see and measure how their organs are functioning, as well as their adaptability, which tells me how their nervous system is lining up and how well they're coping with the current stress in their life, right? So that's one. Then another thing we do is called a nutritional exam. The nutritional exam is a great way for me to find inflammation happening in the body. Sometimes my clients don't even know that they have inflammation. They just know that they're, gassy and tooty and bloaty and just uncomfortable and tired of, running to the bathroom, and not much to show forth is happening, So the nutritional exam is a great exam that allows me to palpate on different areas, looking for blood sugar issues, looking for inflammatory problems, looking for deficiencies in enzymes or hydrochloric stomach acid. So that's also something that we do on the initial exam. And then the last thing, which really is the primary of what I do, is nutrition response testing. So what I do is, it's kind of hard to describe over the phone, but we use it's a form of applied kinesiology, and it's just a real summed up version of it, where I use and press on your arm. So we find a locked muscle in the arm, and then I'm palpating the organ systems, looking to see which organ isn't functioning at optimal level. Then once we do that, we find, well, what is the root cause to causing the liver, the kidneys, the lungs, the pituitary, the thyroid, whatever is showing up for them, what's causing these organs to malfunction or not function at optimal level. And we'll find, is it bacteria? Is it yeast? Is it parasites? Is it viruses? Is it chemicals? Is it metals? Is it a food they're eating? A common food, sugar, wheats, fruit? What is it? And so that's, I'm basically a nutritional detective, really trying to locate at what's causing it. And then we deal with it right then and there. And then I do a lot of nutritional consulting. So I'm constantly making sure they're doing their food diaries.
Yeah.
I'm always like, get me your food diary. So they need to write down their foods, breakfast, lunch, dinner, their sleep, their bowel movements. I mean, that's everything. So I do a lot of that, and I have, poop charts in my treatment rooms.
Gotcha.
So yeah, the listeners are probably like, oh boy.
No, I remember, being on Dr. Oz, he's known for talking about poop a lot as well. So,
Yeah.
very important stuff, even though, people don't like to discuss poop, but it is, it is something that needs to be looked at, because if for you, for example, you can assess it and, for example, know if something's wrong with the digestive system, and right.
Exactly. I mean, I just want them to write it down. They don't have to send me a picture. I don't have to see it. Just write it down.
Exactly. That's an extra level up, it's an extra payment right there.
Oh yeah. That's extra charge for sure.
Extra charge. That's super interesting stuff. So do you put them on a similar nutritional protocol that you eat, or is it kind of customized per person based on their situation?
That's a great question. I can have two diabetics or two autoimmune challenges that are going through and having the same symptoms, and they will leave with different programs. So each program is designed and built to be just for that person. So their program will consist of whole food supplementation to assist in their body's, metabolic breakdown, and really helping to support that person's body going through the diabetes or the autoimmune disease, and they'll leave with different programs. As far as the food goes, the food can be similar, but I have, clients where it's like, you know what, let's lessen this and let's add more of this for you. So the main things, that I refrain from are a lot of like sugar. I am a sugar terminator, like a pretty big sugar terminator. And I really work on the caffeine too. I think I just lost 75% of your audience just now. They're like,
so
click.
No sugar, no caffeine.
Yeah. They're like, she sucks.
No, that's interesting. So you eliminate caffeine completely, or does it depend on the source of caffeine, or getting rid of, sugary soda that has caffeine in it? Or what do you mean by the caffeine thing?
That's also a great question. So depending if they're going to do the 21-day cleanse with me, if they're doing 21-day cleanse, no caffeine, because there's no caffeine during it, although you can do green tea, which does carry some caffeine in it, just substantially less. So when it comes to a lot of what I see a lot of wired but tired. So what, right? So, and that's all across the world, but it's a lot of wired but tired. I'm all keyed up. I've got anxiety, and I'm having a hard time, calming down and even falling asleep and staying asleep. So caffeine, having, one cup of coffee a day, and then you imagine, well, you do that 7 days a week, and then you're doing it 30, that's 30 cups of coffee a month. I mean, your body never gets a rest. And that's for the person who does 1 cup. So measurable, by the way, measurable 8 ounces is a cup. So, caffeine, it's not something where they come in and it's a boot camp. Okay, you automatically have to cut your caffeine. See you next week. It's not like that at all. Sometimes, in fact, you mentioned soda. So when we're weaning people off soda, diet soda, regular soda, there's a company out there called Zevia, Zevia, right? I love them. They're a great company. I wish they would change their, I don't like it being in a tin can, right? Because the metals, but whatever, we'll deal with it. So the Zevia it does have caffeine, right? So the cola alternative still has a little caffeine in it, but it's a great way to start shifting the habit and the taste buds off of being so addicted to the Coke.
Gotcha. And then what about alcohol? What's your stance on alcohol? I'm assuming during the 21-day cleanse, there's no alcohol either. But what about in general?
Oh boy, alcohol. I love
Here's the other 25% of followers that are waiting to leave this conversation. No, just kidding.
Right, I know, exactly. I'm so sorry, Drew. You're going to be so sorry you had me on your show.
No, it's all good.
So alcohol, here's the thing is we all have events. We have bachelor parties, we have bachelorette parties, we have shows, concerts, we have a life to live. And alcohol is not the only one enemy. It's just the quantity. It's the quantity in what we're doing. So my advice to my clients, exactly, when you're doing the 21-day cleanse, you got to tighten the belt and really clamp down on your discipline and do what the cleanse is about to get the benefit. So no alcohol. But in regular programs, meaning without the cleanse, I mean, if they're drinking a glass of wine a night and we're dealing with an overgrowth of fungal yeast in the body and bloating, yeah, we absolutely need to tape that back. It's too much. It's too much sugar and too much acidity. It's too much going on. When going out for liquor, usually for my my female clients, they're going to a bachelorette, they're going to Vegas, Palm Springs. They're going, Christy, I'm going to drink. Okay. And I'm like, okay, thanks for the heads up. But what I suggest you order is some potato vodka and do it with soda water and lemon or lime. It's the lesser of the evils because it's less sugar. You don't deal with any high fructose corn syrup or any sugars in them. And it's lighter on the body. And it's a potato vodka. So alcohol is alcohol, but
Exactly. Alcohol is still a toxin at the end of the day, right?
yes, I'm an enabling nutritionist in Newport at the end of the day.
Well, it's like, I think most people, for example, with sugar, most people aren't going to totally never eat sugar again, right? I mean,
Right.
it just doesn't seem, realistic in today's society and culture that we're just going to be like, all right, we're never eating sugar again. Same thing with alcohol. I think most people can go without it for periods of time and feel great. But, if it's part of their culture or society or, traditions, it's, they're going to enjoy it every once in a while. But it's just being smarter about it and upgrading maybe your versions of it. So instead of eating things that are full of high fructose corn syrup, you're maybe buying something that is, maybe gluten-free flour with, organic coconut sugar or something that's maybe a tiny bit healthier, but it's still sugar at the end of the day. But, just being smarter about it, I think is what people need to be aware of.
Absolutely. There's going to be a different glycemic breakdown at the end of the day, right? So you're going to have a sweet potato versus a regular russet brown potato. You're going to have a way different response. It's not going to be as stressful between, if you have a russet, a russet brown potato is very starchy and going to break into sugar quick. And it's going to stress your insulin and glucose. So as compared to the sweet potato, that's a little more lower glycemic and friendlier to the body, it's not going to be as stressful. So yeah, one thing that you brought up that I thought was really interesting is when I've been doing this for 12 years and in practice on my own for 8. And throughout practicing, the funny thing is when you mentioned about culture and drinking and maybe it's in your culture. So one of the cultures that I have absolutely helped with my clients is the Asian culture, and a very dominant, prominent food in their culture is rice, right? It's a main one. And the funny thing is that most of my Asian clients, rice shows up as a sensitivity and part of what's causing some challenges for them. Isn't that
That's
interesting?
Yeah, super interesting.
Yeah. So I found that interesting too. So when you said in your culture, I was like, you know what? Not only alcohol, but rice, the food.
Yeah. No, that is very interesting. I'm glad you brought that up because I think, we look at rice and say, well, people have been eating it for generations and generations, so it must be optimal, it must be healthy. Whereas nowadays we're kind of told to steer clear of most rice. Like if you go to a sushi restaurant, I think it's okay every once in a while, but to have as the staple, with all your meals may not be the healthiest thing for you.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that, with how can I say this nicely? Americans, we see something. We see a culture that is naturally thin and has some soy in their diet and rice, and then we maximize it, market it, and sell it, and bam, it's the new superfood or the new healthy way to eat. And I think that we do that with a lot of cultures looking for the right answer, the right diet, the Mediterranean diet, the Atkins diet, the paleo way. I think that we're confused and don't really understand the full scope. I mean, even being in the culture that with Asians, that they ferment a lot of their foods and they don't consume as much as we do over here. So portion is key and culture is key. They're breeding on different cultural foods than we are. And I think we're desperate. We're so sick and tired that we're desperate and trying to get better.
Yeah. No, that's super interesting because I was just talking to someone the other day about, us trying to mimic the look of somebody else, for example, and say, oh, you look like how I want to look, so I'm going to do exactly what you do, which, maybe for your body may not be the optimal thing. Eating the same way that bodybuilder eats or working out the same way that bodybuilder works out, or, vice versa. A girl might see this, swimsuit model that's skinny, or like you mentioned, a whole culture of skinnier people thinking, oh, well, then that must work for us. But that's not always the case. We got to find what's optimal for us. And that's why I'm such a big fan of, getting your blood work done on a regular basis, testing your hormones so that you realize and understand, okay, what diet, what lifestyle is optimal for you. And unless you do that, you don't really know, because you can't just go off of looks. You can't just go off of weight, right? There's so much more to our health than what our physical body looks like. And so until you get those tests done, you're never really going to know what is optimal for you. And so that's what I tell people all the time. And I'm sure you are along those same lines, right?
Absolutely. I have saliva hormone kits in my office that I, hand out a lot to look at the, progesterone, estrogen, even gut panels. You can see yeast, parasites, you can do all that kind of stuff. But I agree with you. You have to know where you're at, or at least be with a professional that understands how the body works before you just go out to Sprouts or Whole Foods and buy, a supplement, or start reading about what's the next diet I have to do. Okay, now I'm gluten-free. Now I'm paleo. Now I'm Atkins. It's like, let's just slow down and let's see where you're at. Yeah. And we can go from there.
Exactly. Well, cool. Well, we're running up on time here, Christy, but I just wanted to thank you for coming on. Before we go, I want you to kind of let people know where they can find you on social media, your website, things like that.
Oh, awesome. Yes. Okay. You can find me at Holistically Christy, and my name is spelled Kristi, and that's holisticallychristy.com. And you'll find me Holistically Christy on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I haven't tweeted much, but mostly on Instagram and Facebook. And then you'll find my practice is holisticnutritioncenter.com.
Okay, gotcha. We'll make sure and put those in the show notes so people can find you, and I'm sure people will have questions after listening to this podcast. Really quick, Chris, before I let you go, a couple quick fire, rapid fire type questions for you. One is, what's your favorite cheat meal?
Pizza.
Ooh, okay, pizza. I think I had someone on the podcast last week, and that was his as well, and that's mine too. If pizza or sushi, it depends on the mood.
That's a tough one. I forgot about that. But come on, bread, cheese, meats. Come on, yes. You can't beat it.
It's delicious. Okay, and you mentioned you did have one son. I
do, River.
Okay, and how much weight did you gain during your pregnancy?
19 pounds.
Oh my gosh. That's nothing. That's nothing. People are going to roll their eyes. People are rolling their eyes right now.
Okay, but honestly, his dad and me were small people. We're little. I'm 5'1". His dad is like 5'6", 5'7". So he was tiny. He was a little 5-pound, 5.9 ounce baby.
Okay. I guess that's
cut me some slack.
No, I am. My ex-wife, she gained, I think, 18 pounds with both her pregnancies. So the same kind of thing. Women I know are so mad. They're like, I gained 70 pounds, and my baby was, 6 pounds, 7 pounds. It's like, it's so unfair, right? But
right, diet is key. Meaning the lifestyle.
So that kind of leads into the other question is, okay, other than pregnancy, have you ever been overweight?
I've never been obese or overweight, but I would say when I was in high school, right before I started the whole journey, I was probably a good 12 pounds over, so pudgy, maybe actually 15, I would say. So like not like chunky, but where you'd say, yeah, she could stand to lose about 10, 12 pounds.
Yeah, at least in our society.
Yes.
So, okay, I ask all my followers this: would you ever intentionally gain weight on purpose to see if you could take it off as a challenge? Would you ever do a fit to fat to fit journey similar to what I did?
Oh God, on the spot. Would I ever do that? I would say no. I don't know if I could.
Yeah. I don't blame you. That's what most people say, to be honest with you.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So you're like,
I don't know if I want to go through that stress.
yeah, no, it is stressful. But
How
I think
was it for you?
No, for me, that's the thing is it did drive empathy, like for me to better understand where people are coming from who struggle with being overweight, because before, never having been overweight my entire life, I didn't understand why it was so hard just to change your diet, exercise, and then boom, you'll see results. But I understood that it was simple in theory, but to practice and apply it was super hard. And I couldn't get that, why it was so hard just to change those things until I did it. It was humbled. It was way harder than I thought it would be. And I realized just how powerful the emotional connection to food that people have, right? And food cravings are way more powerful than I gave them credit to before I did this journey. So it was a very humbling experience for me. It was eye-opening and gave me a different perspective. And at the end of the day, it helped me have more empathy, more respect, and a better understanding for those who struggle with, transformation in general. So for me, I have no regrets doing it, other than it was really hard. The food tasted good for a minute, but then you can only eat so much pizza and cookies before you are sick of them. So
yeah, but that's amazing. I mean, look at you. You not only empowered yourself, but now you're empowering so many people. I mean, you're very inspiring. So the fact that you did that and had that journey, you inspired me, even though I said no.
No, it's all good. I don't expect everybody to do it. But keep doing what you're doing, Christy. Thank you so much for coming on today. I really enjoyed having you on and talking about the topics we discussed, because I really do feel, people can benefit from these topics that you discussed. And it's just the whole mission of this is to get these things that me and you talk about in the fitness industry, right? We live in this bubble, to get these things to the mainstream, right? To your average person that, really doesn't understand these kinds of concepts. So it's about taking baby steps with people and getting these things that are common to you and I, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And getting it out there into the masses.
Absolutely. Education is key.
Yep.
Thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun.
Yes. And the next time I'm out in SoCal, which will be pretty soon, I'll have to reach out to you and stop by your place. Please do.
Yeah.
That would be fun. All right, Christy.
Thank you, Drew.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye. All right, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed today's episode with Christie Akuna. Let us know what you guys think or what you guys thought of this episode with Christie Akuna. And let us know your thoughts. We'd love hearing from you guys. Please feel free to reach out to me on social media with suggestions, comments, concerns, complaints, anything you guys want to talk about, or future guests or suggestions that you have for us. I'm all ears. You can reach out to me at Fit to Fat to Fit, just like my book, just like my website. I'm on all social media handles, I believe. Let me think about that. I believe I am at Fit to Fat to Fit. And if you haven't done so yet, you guys, please sign up for my newsletter on my website. Just scroll down. It's like the second section, and enter in your email and be updated with news, events, upcoming things, promotions, giveaways. So just you stay in the know so you don't miss out on anything. Because sometimes, for example, on Facebook, you might not see all my posts, or same thing with Instagram. So sign up for the newsletter is a great way to never miss anything that's going on. I appreciate you guys. I really do. Thank you so much for tuning in each week. And hopefully you guys will share this podcast and maybe, this episode or other episodes with family, friends, that this could make an impact in their life. So thank you guys so much once again. We'll see you guys back here next week for another great episode on the Fit to Fat to Fit Experience podcast.